About this thing that's in my brain, it keeps me from wanting to go on, but I want some gain.
Right.
Baby, a little fame. Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, welcome back to the We the Patriots podcast. I'm your host, Sal Assante, and with me today is my co-host, Andrew, and glad to have you back today, dude. We had some fun this morning.
Going on.
We've been having a lot of fun
Yes, we did.
dude, I was looking back over the past month. I think we put out 6 or 7 episodes in the past 30 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all. We're cranking it. We are absolutely cranking.
Yeah. So especially if you aren't into necessarily what today's show might be talking about, there is a lot of topics to go and cover that we've been talking about and stuff to dive deeper into. So yeah, don't be afraid to go dive in, especially into Danny Sport Talk. If you haven't heard the recent show, we had a couple minor leaguers, one minor leaguer and one independent ball player, and some pretty wild stories came out of that. So been doing a lot of shit, dude. This state has been going to shit though, and we got to talk about it. The state,
Right.
And
Yeah,
I think our leadership is continuing to show its ineptitude, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Well, so being from New Jersey, Bob Menendez has been a big name historically, and recently, of course, he's been the talk of the town everywhere because of the corruption indictment that was brought against him for some of these egregious, heinous, alleged bribes that he took. So, when Chuck Schumer's saying that he's disappointed, that it's bad. So
it's bad for the Democrats. I thought it was really rough too, because you had the other junior sitting senator in New Jersey come out and say he should step down, as well as Phil Murphy. So he's getting pressure from pretty much every angle on the Democratic side, and he's
from those sleaze bags, from Cory Booker and from Phil Murphy. Forget it.
Yep.
But
he's going to weather it. So we'll see what he does. I'm pretty interested. It looks like the things they're alleging are pretty based. Looks like they have the facts. From what I've seen, I mean, they had allegedly gold bars sewed into jackets. You had cash lining in just unmarked cash in envelopes.
Right. So now, granted, none of this is technically, I guess, been proven yet. It hasn't been proven in a court of law, but doesn't look great for him. Of course, he pled not guilty.
To me, it just continues.
We'll see how it turns out.
I think New Jersey has just been honestly a display of shit show, shitstorm, like I just said, and I think it just continues it. And then not only just Menendez, of course, last night we got into another embarrassment by a New Jersey agent, and that would be our lovely old friend Chris Christie. It was coming from all sides. It was coming from all sides the past couple of weeks, dude.
Yeah, right. So that debate was a doozy. I have a lot I could talk about on it, and so I think some of my opinions are a little bit not of the mainstream. I hear people saying that flip-flopped. I think he was one of the better performers last night. I think I don't think he hurt himself necessarily. Yeah. I mean, I just listened to another one of his podcasts today where he really dove deep into a lot of his ideas and his stances, and I'm not gonna lie, I like the guy. The more I listen to him,
he has a lot of stances that are strong.
The more I discover, the more I discover that I agree with him, and he is unique like Trump in the way that he can self-fund his campaign. He doesn't need super PACs. He doesn't need outside donors.
No, correct. He can stay in as long as he wants to be there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and he's doing it because he genuinely wants.
I think he has a motive.
He wants to get back to the country. I don't think
he has an angle.
motive.
I don't know if he has an angle to try to get VP because I don't think he has a real shot at presidency. And I do think he had an issue last night, especially not on the policy flip flop, but on the personality flip flop. So he kind of, hold on, got a phone call coming. I'm going to skip that bad boy.
Yep, short little technical difficulties there. You were talking about Vivek and his personality and how he was the nice guy. That's
He
what
tried
you
to.
think.
Well, that's not true. He tried to play it at first, and I don't think it went very well. And then he had to kind of reel back into the conversation because everyone played attack mode last night at some point. It was really weird. Like you're
A
even
lot of it was
watching.
directed towards him.
It was. It really was, and especially from Nikki Haley. And she got kind of like raged up last night. I don't know
Nikki
if that
Haley and
was.
Tim Scott, pretty much. Yeah,
Well, it was
Nikki
really
Haley got
weird.
really raged up last night. I don't know what her issue was. She's just obviously desperate for attention and for money, and she has no chance. She has absolutely no chance.
Yeah, she really doesn't have a
Same thing
chance,
with Tim Scott too.
and Tim Scott too. I was just gonna say, and he looked like he was just there trying to throw punches because his team probably got word that he was too soft in the first debate because he looked like a big Care Bear in the 1st
Mhm.
one. At the end of the day, honestly, good for the country though in a way because the one with the clearest head, in my opinion, got the best boost from it, and that's Ron DeSantis. I'm not saying he got a boost, but I don't think he went down at all. I don't think he really had any negatives. He defended the few things that got put on him decently well. And to be honest, let's be frank,
Yeah.
that moderator was awful. That one moderator from whatever that Spanish division
Telemundo
was.
or something. Yeah, no, it was horrible.
Oh my God, the questions were so slanted
And
and it was really rough.
right. I don't think Vivek was necessarily playing the nice guy. I think he was just exchanging niceties because he said he was like, "Oh, these people on the stage, they're good people, right?" And then Tim Scott has to jump in thinking he's smart. Oh, saying last debate you said we were all bought and paid for. I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, well, like you could theoretically be a good person and still be bought and paid for. They're two different things.
Right.
And I think what Vivek was saying was true that, yeah, they are probably decent people. They just have policy disagreements, right? And they probably are bought and paid for in a way. So even on a lot of the commentary afterwards, a lot of people were pointing that out that like that was some sort of hypocrisy on Vivek's part or something. And I don't really think so. Because you
I'm
could
not.
be a good person and still be bought and
I
paid
don't know
for at the
if it
same time.
was.
But
I
my
don't know if it
overall
was hypocrisy. I think it was more he played off as giving a different signal, if that makes sense. And it's more
Yeah.
like what he gives off. It's not necessarily what he did. I think he gave off kind of that feeling that I'm going to try to cozy up to you guys a little bit and win back some points because last time I went a little hard. And all of them took that opportunity to just shit on him. And that's kind of what last night turned into, I think. And he got a lot of attention. So I do
right.
think, in a way, he may have
He
boosted
got a
himself
lot of
too.
attention because they're scared of him. No,
Right.
he definitely. I don't think he hurt himself yesterday. I mean, people are going to try and paint his performance in a negative way to try and hurt him.
Right.
But the only thing that was negative was that when he was being attacked, it wasn't just coming from one angle. It was coming from many different sides of the stage. It was coming from many
Absolutely.
different voices, like from Ron DeSantis to his right, Tim Scott right to his left, Nikki Haley all the way to his right, and even like all the way down on the stage, Chris Christie was chiming in too. There were points in time when there was so much talking to like so much roasting of Vivek going on that it you couldn't hear what anyone was saying.
Mm. No, I agree because everybody was trying to jump over themselves,
Like,
including Vivek. So there was, I do think there was
right,
one,
and he's sitting there trying to defend himself,
and then he's
and
getting hit with two
he really
different
didn't have the
people.
chance to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see
For
that a
two
couple
different
of
people saying
times.
two different things, and they would give him 15, 30 seconds to respond or whatever it was, and then they would just jump right in again, and then they would move on without ever giving him a chance to respond really or properly. So I think he probably would have looked a little better if he had a chance to actually respond and if he was able to use those 15 seconds to do so. But overall, my best performer of the night in terms of substance was Doug Burgum, North Dakota's governor. Does he have
What
much of a
I-
shot? Probably not. But
what actually came out of his mouth?
I think
Yes.
he.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. I think he inputted the most substance throughout the whole night, and I don't think I disagree with a single thing that he said.
Really?
Fuck.
Yeah,
Oh man.
I was too
I mean, granted,
taken
he didn't
aback.
say much.
Yeah, I was too taken aback
He didn't say
by
much,
the
but
outliers, but
I agree. Right. I mean, I agree with his pretty much with every policy statement he made yesterday. No, I'm not too familiar with him or his record in North Dakota, but he I liked his answer on the Second Amendment. I liked his answer on abortion. I liked his answer on small government, and so on. So now, yeah, of course, it's probably a long shot for him, but I don't like policy wise. I don't think he'd be a bad president. I just don't think he has the
I don't
personality
think he
for
has.
it. I don't
I
think
don't
he
think
has
he
the name
has a.
recognition. I don't think he has that. Right. I don't think he has. Yeah. There's really
Yeah,
no chance. But
right.
policy wise, yeah, I mean, I think he brought a lot of interesting perspective and discussion yesterday.
Yeah, and I just wanted to tap on to the one who I think should just leave at this point, which is Christie. Um,
You're red. You're red.
I'm red. Here we go.
Yes.
Are you good? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Fuck
You're
this
still
thing,
red,
dude.
but all right, that's better.
There you go.
Yeah.
This is going to be the shittiest episode we do in a long time, everybody. Oh, yeah. All right. I can kind of see you now.
Love this
You're
audio
back in.
quality right now. But so we were talking about, yeah. All right. Can you hear me at least?
Oh, no, I can hear you.
That's all I care about. Is can you hear me? All right. So yeah, we take off. So Doug Burgum, yeah, seems like a great guy. Seems like solid on policy, solid businessman. Seems like he has a solid record in North Dakota. Seems like he has the core beliefs that I share, that I believe in, and tend to hold close. So yeah, I think he articulated himself in a good way. He sounded great, and I liked his ambition too and his assertiveness when he would interject himself like into the middle of some of the conversations because he wasn't getting asked any questions, right?
Right.
And specifically on matters that he claims to have a lot of experience with, he was making himself heard. He was speaking up, saying, "Can I answer this question? I need to answer this question." So I think that was good on his part too. I think people like that. Yeah, and I think it'll serve him well in the long run. I still don't think he's going to really go anywhere or do anything, but I think it was a good look for him, essentially.
And do you think that
So,
DeSantis gained or lost at all yesterday? Before we go to the couple losers.
right. um, I don't think DeSantis performed all that bad. I think he really harnessed in on what his strengths are and what he's known for, the anti-wokeism agenda, and a lot of what he did, what he's done in Florida. He touted a lot of his accomplishments.
Right. Do you
What he did was, I think he performed well. I think he, I don't know if he came out on top. He was, if not, it's a close second. To me, he came across as scripted, kind of politician-y, which is what he is. He is a
I think that's
politician.
kind of like what he is
Um,
though, yeah. I was gonna say.
he didn't. Yeah, he didn't. I like the guy. I love his policy. I love his anti-wokeism. I love what he's doing down there in Florida. I think it's a shame that him and Trump can't get along, unfortunately. But that's just the reality now. But yeah, I think overall he performed well. I don't know if he was the winner. I don't know how much yesterday helps him. If anything, I think maybe he gets a little boost, but I don't think he really did anything revolutionary that, are really going to make people say, this is
Right.
going to be
That's
my
where I
guy
think
again.
he.
Like people's
That's where
minds
I
are
think he struggled.
people's minds are already made up. He he sounded the same essentially. He sounded the exact same. So, yeah, I think hold on, what? All right. He sounded the same as he always does. It sounded a little too scripted for my liking personally, but just putting my personal feelings aside, I think I think the conservative base is going to want to throw their support behind somebody who isn't necessarily bought and paid for and isn't necessarily a politician. I still think that
Mm.
that want for populism is still there, like that Trump brought to the table. I think it's still there, and that can be proved by Ramaswamy's message becoming so popular because that's his message as well, right? He wants to drain the swamp essentially, like Trump claimed. He wants to get rid of the FBI. He wants to get rid of the CIA, the IRS, the ATF. He wants to abolish all those agencies, and he articulates how he wants to do that. Especially if you go and listen to a lot of what he says off the debate stage and a lot of his interviews. He's a genius. He's a very smart guy. He kind of reminds me of Ted Cruz a little bit in 2016 with that message of wanting to abolish the IRS and get rid of some of the three-letter agencies in Washington D.C. But so yeah, there's still kind of that want for a populist candidate like that. So that's why I don't think DeSantis doesn't have much of a chance because he's not that.
He doesn't fit into that mold. Yeah, I think I was going to
No,
ask you before we move on from DeSantis. I think do you think he struggled, or do you think he's going to end up struggling because of his reliance on Florida, keeping him like it seems like every answer he has, he tries to coax it into what he's done, and he doesn't really feel like he has any real feel. Like he doesn't feel like he has that feeling that Trump has when he can adapt to a room. He has all these answers that are playbooked into, oh, I've done this, I've worked with this, I've helped on maybe even this state implementing this. He always tries to center it around him and his own work in Florida or his accomplishments instead of just having a structured and like actual policy response. I think. You think he struggled?
no, I don't think that's a struggle at all. I think that's a strength to be able to point to what you actually did policy wise in your state. I think that's
Mm.
absolutely a strength. I think that if anything, that's to his credit. He has done a lot of things in Florida. He has been a very successful governor,
Oh, totally agreed. I'm
and I think he
saying,
has every right. I think he has the right to point at that stuff too. But when it comes to reading the room, like you were saying, Trump's a master at that, right? Like Trump's a master of personality and relating to people. DeSantis doesn't even come close in that regard. Um, but yeah, I mean, DeSantis should point to his accomplishments in Florida because he should be proud of them for
he
the most
absolutely
part.
should. I'm just curious. Did he say it so much last night? Did he involve it so much without speaking purely policy or what I'll do that he kind of came off a certain way? If that makes sense.
No, no, I don't think so. Because what I will do is a lot different than what I have done, and I
Mm.
will do it again.
See, that's where I think that
I think,
he may have actually gained, he may have actually taken a step up then. Because if that's a
right.
general feel
Yeah,
from you,
that's what I think.
yeah. So I do want to move
Yeah.
on
No,
to,
if anything, I think that's a good thing.
if there's anything, I do want to move on to a couple of losers. I do think,
Do it.
honestly, Tim Scott just looked out of place, man. Especially if you know Tim Scott. If you know
So out of
Tim
place.
Scott over the
Trying to throw
years,
punches too.
he's not the kind of person that goes up in grandstands generally, especially against someone that he's somewhat comparable to. Like he always seems to want to work not only across the aisle but with different kinds of Republicans on all sorts of legislation that he
Right.
thinks could really help his community. And yesterday, like you said, he was just throwing punches. It seemed like he was swinging a hammer wherever it would hit. And I think he eventually
Right. Yeah.
he's going to have to drop out because he just didn't
It's
represent
because he
what he
wants
really
attention.
is.
He strives for attention.
Yeah.
No, no, and I mean a lot of his attractiveness, his likability was the fact that he's an approachable guy. He's a likable guy. He
Right.
was always very soft spoken, and he would be able to work with you. That's not
It's
the Tim
hard,
Scott we saw last night.
but it's hard to be that Republican and get votes nowadays because you need to win over that
Right.
base, and that base is like you were mentioning before, it's pretty populist. And if you're not going to be representing bold and
Right.
strong your ideas, and you're going to be more meet me in the middle, like Trump is a meet me in the middle in reality,
Yeah.
but not with the rhetoric, right? And Tim
Right.
Scott's not necessarily the opposite. He actually does and says what he seemingly is going to do. He's going to work with you. Not last night.
Right. And I think people think of him as a pushover because of his demeanor overall.
Right.
And I think he might be trying to maybe change that reputation a little bit, and that's kind of why he came out swinging yesterday. But
That could be
it
very true.
just it contrasts so much with my view of Tim Scott, and I think he's a great senator. I think he has a lot of he's done a lot of great things in the Senate. Uh, I remember he was a large part of writing the tax bill in 2017, the tax cuts
100%.
that Trump implemented. He was a big part of that. I think he's a great senator, but I don't know if he
If I'm
has
not mistaken, too,
that factor.
he was pretty adamant during COVID as well. He was one of the few that was trying to stand up for what congressmen and senators were supposed to be able to do in Congress and how they should enact laws.
Right. So I mean, yeah, I mean to his credit, that's all fine and dandy, but he's that politician meet me in the middle, like you were saying.
Yep.
I think people are tired of that because that's not how incremental change is not how things are going to get done anymore. That's not how things get done.
Yep. Well, it
Um,
really it is. It's just that what gets you elected is
what
the
is how
big
things get done?
change.
Well, right. Well, anymore, in reality, things are implemented incrementally, but the promise of swift change is what gets people elected, and
Right.
I think it is possible. I think Trump had some people who were ill advising him. So I think some of those around him perhaps weren't the best choices. But yeah, I mean, in theory, some of these swift actions can be done, right? Abolishing the IRS, abolishing the CIA, FBI, yada yada yada. In theory, it can be done. It's just a matter of is somebody going to have the nads to stand up and do it. Now, whether or not that's what we want, we could debate that,
Right.
right? We could debate whether or not that'll be a good thing or not. But personally, I don't really know. It seems that some of those organizations have maybe inflated a little bit, but again, I don't know. That's something up for debate. But Ramos Vivek says this very well, and he's right that being the incremental change guy is not the way to do politics anymore. It's the same old stale nonsense where nothing's going to get done. Things need to be more swift in politics.
Mm.
So he's absolutely right about that.
I just think in reality and what you're trying to achieve, you don't actually want that radical change, especially not as a politician,
Right.
because when you think about it realistically, and they
No.
know this, you make that radical change and it goes poorly, where does the blame go? It doesn't go to your secretary, it doesn't go to your vice
Directly.
president. It
Directly to you.
goes straight to you. Yeah. So, and also
Yep.
it's the myth that you hear, or the myth, it's the thing that you hear about every president who gets in, who claims they got this big change or this big agenda, and then they come in and they meet the black suits, right? Or they meet the people who are going to really tell them what they need to do or what their
Right.
daily agenda is. And to a
Right.
certain extent, whether we agree right or left on this issue, we have to understand that this is true. That there is a certain amount of the president's really just daily schedule and total eclipse of his whole presidency is dedicated to all of these agencies, all of these different conglomerates that he needs to make happy and satisfy
Right.
and go through every single check. And he needs to have such a bird's eye view because he's receiving so much information. He
Right.
cannot personally go and try to micromanage all of this stuff. He needs to have people in place that are going to help him or her, whoever's in charge. Now, this is where I think it does come back to Trump, and I kind of want to ask you if you think he's a loser of yesterday. And only reason he would be a loser, of course, would be because he didn't show up. So, do you think he won or lost or didn't really do anything from not showing up to the debate yesterday?
I don't think it. Certainly don't think it hurt him. I don't think it significantly helped them. There might be a negligible boost from it again anytime one of these debates come around. I think what Chris Christie tried to do actually totally backfired on him because I mean any mention of Trump is just going to boost Trump's poll numbers. It's going to boost Trump's favoritism.
Hmm.
The more they try and claw their way out of the bucket and throw insults at Trump, the more it hurts everybody on that debate stage. It's just gonna completely backfire, right? They have nothing else to say other than Donald Trump, you're a coward, show up. That's essentially what Chris Christie said, right?
Right.
And what he said makes sense on the surface, but he's being disingenuous. Oh, answer for these indictments and charges. Yeah, he's just saying he's trying to like on a school playground, he's trying to just like say, "Oh no, you swing for," like he's trying to like entice him
Yeah.
to do it.
I
Basically,
get what you're saying.
that's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to he's trying to piss him off to just to do it, and I think that makes Trump look better. Actually,
I agree with you there, but don't you think
like the Donald Duck thing?
That was funny as shit. I'm not gonna lie. The Donald Duck thing was one
I
of the
thought it was
funniest.
stupid.
Well, he had such a good setup to say something that might have actually been good or funny, and he just
Say
came up
something
with that. And he came up with
funny,
that, and it was like
totally flat.
it was like Donald Duck, dude. It's like, dude, that's to me, that's like that is the end of you, and you need to stop at that moment, and that's off the stage because
he needs to just go away, be quiet.
he planned that line specifically for a long time because he had a call out. I'm looking at you from, like, he had this big grandstand.
Right.
I thought
looking into the camera, he looks into the camera. Yeah, no. And to think that got past scriptwriters, advisors, his consultants, and
right.
I'm sure his family too. Right. To think that everyone checked the box at that and said, "Okay, yeah, you can say that." What are you thinking? Like, he really thought that would be a good idea. That was really
so
really cringeworthy to me.
So awful.
That
But
really
I do have a different question though, off of Trump. So don't you think that he kind of appears weak though by not showing up?
No, I don't. Of course, you could twist it that way, but I think it makes, and what he says is true, is that he is 40 to 50 points ahead in every poll. Why is he going to waste his time? I really don't think it's weak. I think it's actually a sign of strength that I don't need to waste my time here.
But
it's almost like,
I'm not going to lie, that makes him look like
like
a pompous ass. I think it makes him look really weak. And I'll say this, and this is my reason why. I think it's showing that he's so confident in himself that he's so much better than these other people.
Pompous might not necessarily be weak, though.
You could debate that. But so what he's doing, though, in my opinion, is he really hasn't come out with very much substance and policy suggestions lately. And when he's done it, especially with what he came out on abortion against DeSantis, what he came out with his abortion stance against DeSantis, I thought was one of the worst takes I've heard by a Republican in a long time. He basically cracked down on the fact that he enacted a heartbeat bill down in Florida, and then said it was immoral and that there should be no right to a governor to do that. Which I thought you're just stepping on toes at that point. That you could have just said nothing. And not only that, I think you dug your grave with a few pro-lifers who really thought you were on board. But
Interesting.
I think that as of late, like I said, his policy suggestions have become so nil or so vague that, to be honest, to me, dude, it doesn't seem like he has a plan. And I think that might be one of the bigger reasons he's not on the debate stage, is because he's really got his mind in other places. And that might be fair, but that might go to show that he's kind of a weak candidate at this point, I think.
No, I mean, I see what you're saying. I do know what you mean in terms of him not seeming like he has an updated policy. Like, he kind of hits on the same points over and over again, and I haven't really heard much policy from him either. Granted, he does have all these indictments he has to deal with, and he's trying to campaign as well. And he also doesn't want to say too much because everything he says can and will be used against him in these pending court cases. But no, I think not having stated policy or a plan, like you're saying, I think maybe it seems like he doesn't have much of a plan as well. But I think those two factors hurt him more than not being on the debate stage. So yeah, I think maybe his popularity is dropping a little bit, but I don't think it's from not showing up at the debates. I think it's from not talking policy, not proposing policy.
Right.
But for him, it's kind of like he knows he's up here. It's like, one, his poll numbers show that, yes, he is a strong candidate. So it's not weak to, like, he can point to his poll numbers and say, listen, I'm not weak because my poll numbers are strong. And it's almost like, well, hate always comes from beneath, so why even pay attention to them? The debates mean nothing to him until his favorability drops to the point where he's losing relevance. Then maybe he'll do it. I think he might participate at some point. It might be once the candidate pool filters out a little bit. Probably when it's down to, say, like 3 or 4 candidates, he might do it. I just don't think he really needs to waste his time with the likes of Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott. Yeah, I think it'll be just Vivek. I think if he does it, it'll be where it's like Trump, DeSantis, Vivek, maybe Nikki Haley. Yeah, I don't know, but I think if he does do it, that'll be the case.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that he definitely is not looking good if he doesn't come in at some point to these debates and acknowledge some of the candidates going against him. I really do think so. I think it kind of it kind of portrays you as not being confident in your ability, because I do think if you have such a substantial lead and it was a true lead and you walked on that stage and just whipped up that audience, or whipped up the debate stage that badly that they just made themselves all look like fools in front of you, you have a clear winner and you can just walk away after debate 1 or 2. He didn't take that opportunity. And I think that does come off as like maybe he's guarding the fact that he's not as strong as everyone's kind of hoping.
I think he'll have no problem going through everybody. I mean, listen, he mowed down 17 people on a debate stage at one point. I don't think that's an issue at all for him. I think it genuinely is an issue of, he knows that because the audience are made up of super PAC donors, establishment, that sort of thing. So it's not going to be a Trump crowd. It's going to be everyone else who's there funding the other candidates crowd, right? And then, of course, the moderators are not going to treat him any better. The questions are probably going to be very one-sided. I think he thinks it's probably not going to be productive, and it's not going to help him. Genuinely, that's what I think it comes down to. Now, whether or not it makes him look weak in the long run, I personally don't think so. But he very well could be waiting for the candidate pool to filter out a little bit. If you have haters, just like ignore them. I don't know. I don't think it's weak, because when you're like, I could see how it can be looked at from that perspective, but from the other perspective, he could go there and absolutely tear them up, and that restraint is also a sign of strength as well. Right? Everyone knows where he stands on the issues, right? That's not
Well, that's where I disagree.
that's not an issue.
Yeah, that's where I disagree. I think like I said, his recent stuff with especially DeSantis cracking down on almost everything he does. I think it's throwing in this mix of
overall, everyone knows where Donald Trump is going to stand at this point. Now, to think he's going to go there and answer about ongoing criminal charges, that's nonsense, because he can't. He's not going to talk about his ongoing cases, right? Chris Christie wants to, ruffle the feathers there, but no, Trump's not going to go and speak about any ongoing criminal charge. Of course, that would be foolish for Trump to do. I think that plays into why he hasn't been there also. So, I mean, I think maybe people aren't going to really look at that. They're not going to know that. All they see is, oh, there's an empty podium, or there's no Trump there. People aren't really going to look into maybe the reasons why. They're just going to see, oh, Trump's not there, and maybe it might make him look bad, maybe it might not, but there may be legitimate reasons he's not doing them as of now. They're very, very well maybe legitimate reasons.
Yeah, and he might be getting advised by a lawyer not to go on that stage.
We'll see. Right, and I think it's actually probably a smart thing for him to do as of now. I mean, we know these charges, whatever, if you want to call them that, are absolute bogus. It really aggravates me. I think it is a political persecution, and I don't think he will help his case by going up on the debate stage. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he puts himself in a lot of jeopardy to fumble and to trip himself up for court. Right. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with it all. But I'm looking forward to it. The next debate is November 8th, I believe.
Okay.
So coincidentally, that might be election day. Looking forward to it. I'm sure we're going to lose a couple by then. So look for him maybe to participate in that one. If not that one, maybe the next one. I'm assuming there's going to be a fourth. There's usually a bunch, right?
Yeah, I think they're going to have a candidate. They're going to have a candidate solidified by when did they run the primary?
By what, March?
Yeah.
They started in March, I believe.
I think they're going to run primaries probably in
February or March.
Probably in March, I think. You're preparing for the election.
Does it after that.
You're preparing for the real election in 24.
So then you're going to have.
I think you have early voting in March, and you vote in June.
That's for the general?
No. For the primary,
That's
I believe
insane.
For the primary, I believe it's early vote.
For New Jersey, it's June.
In March, and then you go to June for the primary election.
Right. But states, caucuses, and primaries start in February or March, something like that.
Super Tuesday, especially the early ones.
And that's when
especially the early ones.
States. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, well, I forget how many there were last election cycle or last election, so like when
I thought
Republicans were
there was 4 for some
not in
reason.
office. 4 or 5, yeah. So, yeah. So we'll see who, if anybody drops next time, and it'll be interesting to see who it is. We could speculate, but
Who do you think?
candidates are they're not really going to stop. They're not going to suspend their campaigns yet, of course, because it's a lucrative thing to do, and of course they, you can make a lot of money through a campaign. And let's be honest, that's why all but 1 or 2 of the candidates up there are doing it, is
I think
to
that's
essentially
probably
make money.
I think that's probably why pretty much realistically,
Doug
dude,
Burgum, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley.
after seeing what I saw last night, I wasn't impressed by Vivek. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great either. I wasn't impressed. I don't think he's got a real shot just because of the baggage he's going to have from it. If he continues to stay
Just
on
from
there
one debate.
and buy himself in, no, I mean that's his second debate. But you're going to have to fund yourself another, what's that, a month and 10 days now? How long do we have until the next one? It's got to be about right?
5 weeks. No, I don't think he hurt himself anywhere near that badly.
I don't think he
liked
hurt
his
himself.
answers on.
I think he needed to go up a lot more than he did. And I think he's going to be
Right.
not the next one. It's got to be the one after that. And I feel like 4 is the end. Like you said, I believe we start in February. So I think if you push that out another 4 to 5 weeks, I don't think you can have a 5th.
Yeah, December, then maybe January-ish.
Right, but you're going to run that over holidays and all that bullshit. They usually would never.
February, because it's not going to be till late February.
Correct. They might do it in early February.
Do it, yeah. They could be early February. Yeah, there's still a lot of time. I'd say probably 5. They'll be 5. But yeah, I mean, Doug Burnham's going to drop out. Nikki Haley's going to drop out. She's going to go down punching though.
I think Haley's going to last.
Drop out.
I think Haley's going to last
a little while.
I think she's going to at least make it through the 3rd and possibly get to the 4th. I don't see any reason why she can't, because she does have a lot of name recognition, especially with females.
She does, yeah. And yeah, like you said, especially with females. Females love her for whatever reason. I don't think she has really much substance to contribute. I think she's a war hawk, especially some of her answers on the Russia-Ukraine situation and her response to Vivek disturbed me actually.
When she started talking about TikTok and with the kids, it seemed really overbearing.
Well, that too. Well, that too. But her answer with the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, like foreign policy, supposedly her.
What was it exactly? I don't recall.
Area of expertise. She was saying,
she served in the army, correct?
Maybe she did. I don't know, but she essentially wants to perpetuate the war in Ukraine, keep sending money, keep sending funding. And Vivek just basically said, it's not our problem. As president, I will withdraw. I will end the war in Ukraine. I will stop sending money. And what else did he say? Yeah, no, he's. I'm trying to think. Was it the podcast I listened to today or yesterday? On one of them, he said essentially that he would reestablish economic relations with Russia so that they don't have to rely on China. He would diffuse that alliance and have and form an agreement where Russia gets some of what they want in Ukraine, and then that's that. So
Nikki Haley's a career politician, by the way, not in any way, shape, or form a military vet, and it's interesting that she's a war hawk.
Right. To me, her answers came across as very war hawky, and I liked that Vivek was not. And then she sounded stupid clowning Vivek for being on TikTok. Like, really?
I think she also,
Vivek is absolutely right. If you want to bridge the gap to
if you want to
as a
reach
party
those
to the
people,
younger generation,
right,
of course you have to go where they are. He's absolutely right, and she's absolutely wrong. And she sounded kind of tin hatty in a way. Like, yeah,
right. They're going to get
there
all
are
your
ties to the Chinese
information.
government.
They're going to get all your data. They're going to be able
Right.
to get your
Oh, it's
financials.
horrible. Oh, it's horrible. Right. Like she sounded a little bit too tin hatty to me on that. She sounded like you know, trying to think of an example of something we laugh at now that like in the past people were all worried about. I don't know, like cell phone towers or something
Mm.
like that. That's kind of what it sounds like. Or when people who would complain about or think that there was a whole conspiracy behind like chemtrails or something, like acting like it was the worst thing. Oh, it comes down and there's all these chemicals in it and shit. I don't know, maybe there is, but I don't know. She came across as just wrong in
She
that
came
sense.
across
I
really
mean,
condescending. I'm not going to lie. I think
and
TikTok
boomerish
is, yeah, I think
and
TikTok
boomerish.
is, it's definitely been proven that it's got a lot of shit wrong with it and you can't deny it. But
Right, right.
when you're talking about the fact that it is a platform and it exists, are we just going to deny that it exists,
It's a
or are we going to?
legitimate platform. A lot of people are on it, and you
Yep.
can't tell me that you want to bridge the gap, but are going to ignore where the people you're trying to bridge the gap to are.
Right.
You can't avoid where they are if you want to bridge that gap. How
Right.
else
You
does she
have to be
want to
able to
do it?
connect. Yeah, you have to be able to connect. And she got.
Right.
I think she got like kind of visibly upset, and like I said, it came off condescending, I think.
She did. Right. And the fact that she was that upset over that, I don't think, yeah, no, it was kind of like, okay, grandma, like just
Yeah, that's what it
you sound
sounds like.
stupid now. It's
Yep.
yeah, like kind of like all the communist hearings back in what was it, the 50s or something, when
Mm.
the congressional uh, Congress subpoenaed people to testify about communism, like the Red Scare and all that stuff. That's kind of what it sounds like now, to be honest with you. Like, I'm not big into banning things in America. So no, I don't want TikTok to be banned. I think it should be a personal choice for everybody. Um, if it's a national security risk, then sure, action might need to be taken on the cyber level. But yeah, like I said, I'm not into banning things in America. And in Vivek's defense, I can't even believe I have to say this, but I don't understand how Nikki Haley doesn't realize that if we need to bridge this gap between young people and conservative ideology, you have to meet them where they are.
Right.
Have to meet them where they're at.
Right. I couldn't
Right.
agree more.
So I just think she sounded so out of touch. Yeah, I think that was foolish of her.
Well, let's end it
Really.
on that though,
Yeah,
dude.
that was one of my biggest disappointments.
Like how do we,
Yeah.
like, as a group, and like, because at this point I'm finding it hard to call myself a conservative with how just how bought out every one of them sounds. And
Right. Absolutely.
the more and more I think about it, the more and more I want to just hear other voices. And I don't even necessarily need them to be correct. It's just nice to hear someone who's not bought in, right? How do
Right.
we as conservatives start pushing the message that we're, because to me, that's not a good idea. Like, we need to have grounded values, but the problem that we're having now is our grounded
Right.
values are corrupt. I do think that our Republican Party is pretty corrupt, as well as the Democrats. And
Right. It
how
is.
do we start? How do we start shifting this, dude? Like, what do you think we could start doing? Because I think it's pretty important before we really start going down a path of not having choices. Like the past three election cycles,
Right.
I wish I had a president that I said 100% I had faith in. There's not once been that.
Right.
And I wouldn't even say going back the whole, like, the United States, I wouldn't have had confidence in probably one man. And that's unfortunate. Not one that's totally
Right.
running at this point, knowing what I know now. how do we get to a point where we trust our leaders, dude?
Right.
Like even Vivek is
Transparency
gonna,
from the top.
have his off puts. Like, how do we put a candidate out, and maybe it's not a Republican,
Right. You're not
maybe
going
it's
to
a
agree with everybody on anything.
a third party, but
Maybe it's a third party. Right.
dude, I'm more and more,
Yeah. I mean,
especially
you're absolutely right.
watching that debate last night, dude. I found myself so out of touch with pretty much everyone on that stage, and it just seemed like they're living in a
Right.
different world. It really seemed like they're living in a different world. They only,
For the most part, everyone pretty much except Vivek, I would say. In my opinion, at least, everyone else seemed so out of touch, which is odd because Vivek has the highest net worth of anybody there. Um, so it's kind of like that phenomena with Trump, where like
but
how
he
can a
lives in the
billionaire
real
relate to
world,
these
and
people?
he lives in the
He
real
does.
world, and he has to do business with
He
real
lives.
people.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how high up,
Right.
he does have to do business. But
Right.
even
Right.
still, like when I think about it, and some of his answers, I'm not 100% on with. You're going to limit activity on certain apps by the government up to a certain age, and you're going to draw that line just by yourself without anybody's action. Like a lot of his stuff is without congressional action, which
Well, he was saying children under the age of 16 shouldn't be on addictive social media apps. I think he was saying that as a guideline as a parent. I don't think he's going to take governmental action to say ban kids. I don't think that's what he was saying at
right.
all.
Right, but I'm saying a lot of the actual policy actions he was thinking about taking are all executive action, and so is basically everybody on that stage. It's not like he's the only one. But
Pretty much.
when
No.
you're gonna do this, you run into the same issues that we've run into with every past president over the past 8 years, 12 years since Obama
Right.
started it, where you're just gonna wipe away the last 4 years, go into more debt, and start a new system, and then you're going to rinse and repeat that, and that just
Right.
costs so much money. We need to get out of that cycle.
We do. And it goes back again to what we were talking about earlier. We need swift change, and it needs to happen, and we need a guy to do it. I don't know who that guy is necessarily at this point, but
I don't think 2024 holds that person. I'm just saying that's where we need to get to.
yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know if it I don't know if it does hold that person in 2024. Trump may come back with a vengeance, and he may have learned from who knows? He may have learned from last time. He might have better advisors this time if he ever gets reelected by some,
Mm.
you know, slim margin. Um, yeah, we don't know yet. It's still a way out. But
You know what I hope happens?
yeah, I think it's going to take
I'll
somebody
just say
who's
this.
ambitious.
I'll just say this before we get out of here. I hope that RFK runs as a Republican just so he can get stage time.
Right,
I hope he just
right,
switches, because that would actually give me someone to watch and hope to maybe intellectually battle it out with Vivek on stage, maybe a little bit of banter with
right,
DeSantis too. And
right.
it would just give a chance, it would give a chance for Americans to see a real debate, I think, because RFK would come loaded with his own facts, and you would have to fact check him on every single one of them, and it would bring a tough
Right.
debate. I think it would really bring a tough debate.
I don't really see RFK disagreeing with Vivek as much as we may anticipate.
Oh, I completely
I think
agree,
maybe
but
DeSantis a little bit.
there will be
Everybody
very
else,
fine tuned, like, and that's where I think our debate needs to be had, like on those very fine
right,
tuned things, because that
right.
also exposes how alike we are, and I think that helps with the country unity by having two
Well, I'll
candidates
tell
who
you what,
are.
though, not necessarily just debating these nuances. It's important to debate these major concepts as well, such as being a war hawk, right?
or
Like
being or abortion, right? Like,
you saw total or abortion, you saw um total contrasting ideas yesterday on the stage regarding the war in Ukraine. Um,
we did, we saw a couple
so
of different people who
so you
were
need to know
totally,
where your candidate stands on
especially
a
on a big issue
fundamental
like that.
basic issue like that. Yeah,
Right.
that's not a nuanced issue at all.
I really hope that, honestly, we see a little bit more personal, like not personality, but personal. Like I saw a lot of fake. I saw a lot of trying to whip up a story and involve emotion with the fake people stuff. Like I want to hear a personal and a real dedicated policy over these next few debates. And I really hope enough people drop out that we can have a real conversation stem from it.
Right. That would be nice. Not just Nikki Haley and Tim Scott yelling at Vivek, trying to score points and make themselves feel good. I want to hear actual ideas being exchanged in a respectful manner.
Right.
Although it is kind of funny sometimes to watch the fireworks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look back to, and
But
Trump was basically the one just yelling over everybody back in 2016, especially towards the end of the debates when it got to like Hillary. He was like just marching over whenever he got a chance. And it was funny, but like, I don't know how well it plays again.
I'll tell you what, though, he made his point while doing it.
He did.
He
did.
made his point while doing it. It was effective for him. Tim Scott and Nikki
No.
Haley trying to do it.
No.
Total different animal. It falls flat. Even Chris Christie. I mean, he was always known as a loudmouth who would do that sort of thing, and I don't see it working very well for him.
I agree, dude. I mean, see what happens. See what happens, dude. But I think he's out.
Yeah, we will. Looking forward to the next one.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon. Everybody else, peace out.
Yep.
I'ma make all these bitches say, damn, I wish I were the fucking state. I wanna be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.